Just go out and get the data from the API. You may hear that a lot as a data engineer. What exactly is an API and how does it work? We're going to cover that in a moment. But first, I'm Chris Gamble and you've come to Gamble Data Engineering, where we cover concepts, do demos, and do tutorials about data engineering so you can become a master data engineer. What is an API? API stands for Application Programming Interface. If those three words don't mean a whole lot to you yet, they will. We're going to dig in. So, the history of an API. APIs were born in the early 2000s from Amazon and Salesforce. These companies used APIs to allow third-party vendors to extend their reach far beyond what these companies could have done on their own. You could see the results today. In addition, in 2006, Facebook created their own API that allowed other companies to be able to access your profile information, things like demographics, your video and your photo recordings, as well as who you were friends with. This helps Facebook with their advertising today. The AWS S3 and Elastic services are built upon APIs. This enables developers to quickly and efficiently deploy services with code. Finally, an application that might hit a little closer to home for you is when you utilize Alexa to tell your television or your lights to turn off. It is utilizing APIs to communicate between your lights, your television, and your Alexa system that enables that functionality. So how do they work? We'll start with an example from a data engineering perspective. So, for instance, a client, yourself, submits an API request. It could be a button on an application, it could be an Azure Synapse pipeline, or it could be custom Python script that you've written yourself. Next, you send the API request. So the API request consists of an endpoint URL, the method in which you're sending it. Some of the options are get, post, put, patch, and delete. And then any additional parameters that may be passed along, such as a date range or a specific field that you're filtering down to. The next two items are also important. You have a header, which is probably one of the most important parts of the API, which contains your authentication as well as your content type, which primarily will be JSON. In addition, you have the body, which is your actual data or payload when you're doing a put or a push. All right, the next piece in an API is the API server. The server receives the request that you've sent. It authenticates the request. It validates the input. It either retrieves data or manipulates the data that it has, and then it sends a response. The final piece is the API response. Within the API response, you're going to have the status. What you're looking for here is you're wanting a 200. 200 tells you that your status is successful. Your headers, which is the response from the server, as well as the body. The body is usually going to be where your JSON payload is going to be returned, which is what holds the data that you've sent the request for. All right, now you know what an API is and how it works. So go out there and play with some APIs and share your responses below. In the description of the video, I've included a link to some free API resources that you could use to practice with. Be sure to click like and subscribe to continue your data engineering journey. I'm Chris Gamble, and this is Gamble Data Engineering. You've had fun with data.